guys, welcome back for episode number 116 of the weekly playback. So I only have two new to me games to talk about, and then another game which I discussed recently, which I got to play again at a 4-player count, but we will get into that in a minute. But first, I asked in the last intro whether the lighting seemed dark or if it was okay, and one person responded saying that it's fine. So I have not yet purchased a new replacement ring light for the light that broke in front of me. So off to one side, not that you guys really care, off to one side I have like a more high quality professional ring light, which was more expensive, and then the one that was in front of me and the one that's to the left of me were like cheap ring lights from like, oh, there's like something in my eye, from like Amazon, which were like 20 or 30 bucks, something like that. And all the reviews say, yeah, they're fine until they eventually stop working, which is true. So like the connection, the wire connection is really faulty. Like even before it completely stopped working, sometimes I'd have to like, wriggle it in order to make sure that the light stays on and stuff like that. So yeah, so they're cheap and they'll last, maybe a few months to a year or whatever, if you're lucky. So maybe I should invest in another high quality ring light to put to this side of me and eventually in front of me, I don't know. But for now I'm relying on the window light in front of me, and I think I'll need to buy a new ring light before autumn or winter when it starts getting darker earlier. Yeah, so that's just my little spiel on lighting. So I guess we can get started. So let's talk about Harvest. Harvest is a 2024 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Trey Chambers, and the art is done by Tiara Connor, and it's published by Keymaster Games. This is not a review copy. This is a copy that I purchased myself, and I purchased the golden edition with all of the extra upgraded meeples. So this is a worker placement and tile placement game. And yeah, it's really, really good. I played a 4-player game of it last night and I really enjoyed my play of it a lot. In the play that I had, so each person is going to select a character in the beginning. So you're going to shuffle these character cards and give each person 2, and they're going to decide which character they want to play as. I think the cow is for solo only, so I did not include it, but maybe I'm wrong. Because it says 1 to 2 player games on it, so maybe the cow wasn't meant to be included, so I did not include it. But I shuffled all of the other characters and gave 2 to each player, and then we selected which character we wanted to be, and I decided to be Ruthie the raccoon, who is a thoughtful thrifter. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So I chose her as my character, and I had the pink board, so I matched my meeples to my board instead of my character card, which later, halfway through the game, I was like, oh, maybe we were supposed to take the meeples that actually match our character cards if you have like the extra meeples, if you bought all of them, and which I did. So I have like all of the character meeples, but I actually ended up playing as the cow last night and matching my meeple to my board because I took the board that had the pink house. Anyway, not that you guys care about any of that. But I'll throw pictures. So you're going to start with a board, and you're going to start with a sunrise, like a home tile, a farm home tile, whatever it's called in here, which will give you a special ability at the start of each round during the sunrise phase. And the way that turn order works is at the beginning of the game, each player is going to be dealt a sunrise tile with a certain number on it. And when you start playing, the first thing you do is exchange your sunrise tile for one that is available in the open drafting area in turn order. And turn order is dictated by the number on your tile. So for example, this one is number 9. This way. So this is a number 9 tile. So if you had this and someone say had a number 2 tile, they would get to pick before you, and you're going to exchange your tile with one of the 3 tiles that is on display and decide which one you want, and then the number you end up with will determine your turn order for that round. So you'll go from lower to higher number, and the reason you do that is because the higher number tiles obviously give you better starting abilities. So the first thing you're going to do is be able to activate your sunrise tile here, and then the small little tile that you have placed on the board, and I'll give you an example of what those look like. So for example, here's a tile that you might have placed on your board, which you start the game with and you keep for the entirety of the game. So you're going to activate that plus the new tile that you took, and that's how you start the game. So you get whatever benefits these tiles give to you. Then in turn order, you're going to start placing your workers onto the board, the main farm board. So the board is comprised of some different sections. So you have the general store. The general store is where you might want to come in order to get some seeds for plants, which you're going to then want to plant in your farm. There are these farmers markets, and there's some overlays which you're going to be putting down. So you're going to put down 3 overlays on each section and then remove them with at the end of each round. So at the end of the game, you will then play with the stuff that is actually printed on the board for the farmers market. So that also gives you some worker spaces. The farmers market, in the center of the board, you're going to have the fields, which is where you can take planting, tending, or harvesting actions, and I'll go into what all the actions are. There's a trading post where you can trade certain things in order to get certain other things. And then finally, you have the workshop where there's going to be a bunch of building tiles, and when you're in the workshop, you can increase your water capacity, you can remove forest from your field in order to create more room for planting and so on. And then you can build a building by buying a building from this workshop board. So in turn order, one by one, you're going to take a turn placing your meeples somewhere onto the board in order to take that action. And that action spot will dictate how many actions you get in that area of the board. So for example, if you went to the 3 spot, you will get to do the general store action 3 times. So you could buy any one of these seeds by paying the cost in red 3 times because you're in the 3 level action spot. If you see an infinity symbol, that means any number of workers can go there. It's not limited to just 1 worker. However, if there's no infinity symbol, then you're limited to just 1 worker per spot. There's an area of the board, which is the fields, where the top section that gives you 3 actions is also going to cost you money. And the amount it's going to cost you is equal to the round number that you're in. So if you're in the first round, it'll cost you 1 coin, 1 cent. If you're in the second round, 2 cents, and so on. So it's going to get more expensive as the game progresses. And that makes sense because as the game progresses, you're going to have more seeds maybe, you're going to have more ability to harvest and tend, and so on. And if you go in the bottommost section, which will give you only 1 action, because again, we discussed the number indicates how many actions you get in that area when you place your worker, you're incentivized to go in the bottom section because you'll also get to increase your fertilizer or water. And we already discussed what the trading does and what the workshop does. So when you go to the workshop area, you'll see that there's a do not equal sign here, does not equal sign. So that means your 3 actions must be all of those 3 different actions. So you'll have to increase your water capacity, tear down some forest, and then build a building. You cannot take the same 3 actions. At least that's the way we interpreted it. Maybe I should have checked the rule book, but that's the way that we interpreted what that equal sign means. And then of course, again, you're incentivized to go into 1 by, getting that if you go there. So there are going to be buildings that are available for you to buy. You start the game with 2 buildings available in the 3 cent row and 2 buildings available in the 2 cent row. At the end of a round, you're going to push down all the buildings. If you have removed some forest from your field, because everyone starts with forest tiles on their field, so the building's upside down basically, then you need to put it in the top most expensive available spot that is available on the workshop board. If there's no spot available, then you just discard it. So you're just going to take your turns going around and around. So I'll explain how planting and tending and harvesting works. So when you buy a seed, you're essentially getting the item. And I'm going to show you the deluxe components when I talk about the game. So for example, if you get a wheat seed, you're going to get this. If you get a strawberry seed, you're going to get this. If you get a pumpkin seed, you're going to take this. And then finally, if you get a blueberry seed, this is the only different one. You are going to get a blueberry patch. And then when you actually tend to it, that's when you'll actually get to take the blueberries and add it there. So first you need the seeds, which you'll get from the general store. And you might have started the game with some seeds based on your character or your sunrise tile, which you activated at the beginning of the round. Once you have the seeds, which you paid for or got in whatever way, then you can do the other actions. So planting costs fertilizer. So this chart here shows you how much fertilizer you need in order to plant each thing. So each seed is going to take up a different number of spaces on your board. And so for example, pumpkins will take up 3 spaces like that. And so you're going to want to remove buildings. This whole section of the board starts out covered with building tiles. So this is the only available section you have at the start of the game. So you're going to need to remove forest tiles in order to start planting and plant, more and more and building more buildings if you want. However, buildings do take up 4 squares, so they do take up a lot of space. So again, if you plant, you simply take the seed and place it down, or in the case of a blueberry, you take this patch and place it down somewhere. Blueberry patches will never be removed once you place them. However, the other things will be removed. So when you tend, tending works differently for each different crop. So if you tend, you're going to spend a different amount of water, and then you will basically multiply what's already there except for blueberries. So for example, if you tend to your pumpkins, which is going to cost you 3 water, you would need to place down a new pumpkin that you would take from the supply adjacent to your already placed pumpkin. So you really need space if you're going to tend, because you're going to end up growing more and more crops that way. The blueberry is the only different one. When you tend, you will then place blueberries on top of a seed, this patch that you had previously planted. So that's how blueberries work. But for everything else, you're going to multiply. So if you tend to strawberries, you get 2 new strawberries to add to the one that you planted adjacent to the one that you had previously planted. So strawberries, you will get 2 new ones. In wheat, you will get 1 new wheat. And wheat takes up 3 spaces. So again, you have to be mindful of spaces and making sure you have enough space to add these things when you tend. Otherwise, it's basically a wasted action. So you're spending water to do that. So that is the tend action. The harvest action means you can actually remove these crops from your board and sell them. And you'll get points. So when you harvest, for example, for pumpkins, you would get 6 points. For each blueberry, 4 points. For each strawberry, 1 point. And for each wheat, 1 point plus a fertilizer. And then for each different crop type you harvested, you will get 1 cent as well. So you're basically selling it. So you're getting money that way as well. So for example, let's say I harvested two blueberries and 1 pumpkin. That's 2 different crop types, even though it's 3 items in total. So I would only get 2 cents in that case. So that is the field actions that you can take. So this icon here represents any field action that you can take. So if you see that icon, for example, say on your sunrise tile, giving you that ability before the round actually starts, when you activate your sunrise tile, then you can do one of those actions. And again, you can buy that action in the farmer's market. So it's going to get, there's going to be these overlay tiles for the earlier rounds. So for example, let's suppose you wanted to do, one of the field actions, but all the worker spots were taken. You could place a worker on here and take it for free, basically, because that one shows that it's free. And then there's going to be other farmers market spots which are more expensive, which cost like 3 coins or whatever. So there are some other available areas on the board where you might be able to take a field action if you really need it, but all the 3 field worker spots are taken because the 3 field worker spots are limited to 1 worker each. So let's talk about your fertilizer and your water bucket. So you're going to start with your water bucket. I believe it's on the 3 spot, if I remember correctly, and your water and underneath that, and your fertilizer, I believe, starts in the 1 spot. If you increase your water capacity, anytime you fill up your water, so for example, by going, by going here, you can fill up your water for 1 cent. You will move your water token to just below the water bucket anytime you fill up your water. So it's not like you increase one at a time, you move it as far as you are able to move it. Fertilizer does not work that way. Fertilizer, you have to increase one by one. But again, you do get a fertilizer if you end up harvesting wheat. So those are really just all the different areas of the board explained. So you're going to different sections in order to carry out different actions. So again, you want to go to the general store in order to get seeds, as well as fertilizer and water. You want to go to the farmer's market where you might need to pay a higher cost, for example, 4 coins, but you're going to get more, items, and you're going to get different combinations of actions. So you can get, like, for example, you might get a general store thing plus a field action of some kind, which is nice because you're spending 1 worker to do 2 different kinds of things in that case. So the farmer's market is really beneficial for that reason. Again, the fields is where you're going to be planting your seeds that you purchased in the general store, where you're going to be tending and harvesting. And then trading post is where you will go. There's only 2 worker spots, but one of them does allow multiple workers. But with the multiple worker spot, you only get 1 action, because again, the number of the spot you go to indicates how many actions in that area you get. So the trading post is where you might go if you're in a really tough spot and you need to trade something for something else. And then again, the workshop you go to in order to increase your water capacity level, in order to tear down some forests, or to build a building. So let's just talk a little bit about tearing down forests. So again, your board is going to start mostly covered up. So this entire section of the board is going to be covered with building tiles. So when you tear down a forest, you're going to remove this and place it at the topmost available spot in the workshop, face up. So now that it becomes a building available for purchase, and you also get to roll a die and get kind of like a free action from that. So there is a die that you roll, and I'll just show you the die. And on the die are different things. So for example, you might get a money, you might get a wheat, or even a strawberry. That's a really cool die. I really like it. It's really, really cute. So there's different things on here, like a fertilizer, so poo. So yeah, so you'll get different things by rolling this die. So now let's talk about the buildings. The buildings, if you decide to build a building, is going to take up a lot of space on your board, because again, it's going to take up 4 spaces, which is going to make it difficult if you want to tend and start, collecting free items when you tend, in order to then harvest and gain more points. So you want to choose your buildings carefully. Some buildings will give you an action immediately after you buy it and place it. So again, the cost will depend where it is on the workshop board. So it goes by row. So the bottom row is going to be the cheapest, then the middle row is 2 cents, and the top row is 3 cents. And again, at the end of a round, they're all going to push down, and the bottommost ones will be discarded. So different buildings will give you different abilities, and they all will give you like 2 points at the end of a game. I think they're all worth 2 points. I didn't see any that were worth a different amount. So for example, this one, if you are desperate for money, you could build it and it'll immediately give you 3 coins. That one I just probably don't think is such a good idea, because depending on where it's placed, you're only going to net like a maximum of 2 coins, because you would have spent like 1 coin if it was on the bottommost row in order to buy it. So this one, gatehouse, you might want to build towards the end of the game if you have multiple buildings, because you'll get 2 points for each of your building of that certain type. So there are certain different types of buildings, and this one will give you 2 points for each of that type of building. Oh, maybe this is an end game scoring one, actually. I think this is an end game scoring one. I didn't have those, but maybe that's what that symbol indicates. I know, or maybe no, actually, I think the moon indicates it's an end game scoring one, the library. So at the end of the game, you'll get to do one of those, or maybe that's not an end. Maybe that just is something you can do. So I don't know which symbol is end game and which one is just something you can do at the end of a round, but there's different kinds of buildings and they're all worth 2 points. So yeah, but again, they take up quite a bit of space in your farm, so you kind of want to be mindful of which building you want to buy and just kind of do it sparingly, I think. So yeah, so I think that was the entire game explained. So at the end of the game, you'll just score any tiles that you have that score end game points, because you're supposed to score the points for the buildings as you build them, the 2 points as you build them. And then whoever has the most points will win. So again, you're going to be getting points when you harvest your crops and sell them. So that is like the vast majority, like the biggest way you're going to get points in this game. So I super duper love this game. It's a very cozy, thinky game, and I am already dying to play it again. Like, I just really, really enjoy it. I absolutely love the colors. I wore a dress today that I thought would match the colors of the board, like a farmy kind of dress. So yeah, absolutely loved it, and I'm really looking forward to playing it again with like different characters and stuff like that. Yeah, and I really, really love the deluxe version of this. The components are just super duper nice. So yeah, I think that this was a really great buy, and I'm really, really glad I bought it, and I can see this staying in my collection for like ever. So yeah, so very happy about that. So I highly recommend it. I did come in last place by 1 point, and then I think the two players were tied at 1 point higher than me, and then the winner had even greater number of points farther down. I will say that if you do have the deluxe version and you have like all these fancy meeples, it comes with 4, but you're supposed to use 3 throughout the game for placing and taking your actions. And of course, I didn't mention this, but at the end of a round, your meeples will come back to you. But I would recommend still using the buttons for scoring, because otherwise I feel like the board does get a little bit cluttered. So the game does come with these wooden buttons that you can use for scoring. So I think going forward, I would recommend that when we play, we use the buttons for scoring rather than the leftover meeple. And when I played this game, again, I did not match my meeples to the character I had, but I'm looking forward to playing with different characters in the future. So yeah, so if you're looking for a tile placement game and like a farming game, highly recommend this. So I would highly recommend that you check out Harvest. And I think that this is a new version of a game that had previously come out. I don't know anything about the old Harvest, but I really, really enjoy this one. So yeah, so that was Harvest. So let's move on. So another game I played recently is Forges of Ravenshire, which is a 2024 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Sam Stockton, and the art is done by Liam Peters and Andrea Radek, and it's published by BA Games. Now this is a dice rolling kind of dice worker placement game with fulfilling contracts, and you're trying to get an engine going where you're able to fulfill those contracts more quickly and efficiently. So in this game, each person is going, and I'm going to have to use pictures because I don't own this game, so you're each going to have a player board, and you're each going to start with your own special kind of ability. I don't know if mine was overpowered. I did win this game, but I started with all the various sections of the board like unlocked. So otherwise, typically you have to earn enough resources in order to unlock various sections of your board. But for me, like the marketplace, the advanced marketplace came unlocked, and as did the various two I guess I'll just call them marketplaces. I don't know what they're called in the right side of the board. Those also came unlocked. And I also did not have the blocks on the left side of the board, which allowed me to add these upgrade tiles, which again, I don't know the names of those, but I'll just use my terminology as I describe this game. So for me, everything came unlocked. And again, I don't know if that's a super overpowered ability, but that was the case for me. So at the beginning of the game, you're each going to like pick up power, and that power will determine what special ability you have. So like other players have like some training abilities and stuff like that with their special abilities. So each person is going to start with a die in each color. So I believe they were green, orange, and purple. You're going to roll your dice and then place them above the various guilds on your player board. And then in turn order, you're going to take a turn placing a die onto an area of the main board in order to get that thing. And then once you place your die, then you have to remove a different die from the board anywhere on the board. So it doesn't even have to be in the same worker location, because there are going to be dice on the board to start the game with. And then you remove a die from the board and then place it above the guild that matches that color die, and then run that guild. So you're going to take every single thing that you have, and you start with one thing available that's printed on your board, but you're going to be adding these upgrade tiles, which you will get throughout the game, and I'll explain how you get them. So you're going to run that guild. So you're going to continue around and around, taking turns in turn order, placing one die, retrieving a die, and running your guild. In addition to that, your player aid will tell you when you can use special action tokens. These action tokens are how you will get additional contract cards to fulfill and how you will get some of those special upgrade tiles to add to your guilds. So you'll increase your abilities when you run your guild. And yeah, so there's action tokens you can use in order to grab those things, which you're definitely going to want to do. So every person starts the game with one contract card to fulfill, and then you're going to want to acquire more as the game progresses, because there are going to be public objectives that you're also trying to meet by fulfilling these contract cards. So different contract cards will have different icons in the top left-hand corner, and the public objective might be like fulfill 5 of these types of contracts in order to claim this public objective. And public objectives are going to be claimed at the end of a round during the cleanup phase, which I will go into when we get there. So yeah, so you're going to want to pick up new contract cards and those upgrade tiles for your guilds. However, the contract cards you can pick up are dictated by how many points you've already scored. So as you're keeping track of points, as you're scoring them, you're going to be passing certain levels, and those levels will dictate what level contracts you can pick up. I started scoring points pretty quickly in the game and was able to pick up several level 3 contract cards, which are going to score higher but also require more resources for you to fulfill them. So when fulfilling a contract, you need all the different items that are on the contract in order to fulfill it. So the different things that you might need are like leather, steel, you might need like coal, you might need wood, you might need ore, like there's different things. Some of the things are harder to get than others. So for example, like steel is really hard to come by on the main board. Like when you place a die, you're going to look at the corresponding number to see how much you will get of that thing. So in some locations, lower numbered dice will get you more of a certain thing, whereas in certain other locations, a higher number die will get you more of that thing. So it just varies by location to location. So steel is one of those things that is pretty hard to get. But one thing I forgot to mention is when you retrieve a die, you also get to take the thing of the location when you're retrieving that die. So like, let's suppose I put a die down in order to get steel, and I was able to collect 1 steel. Let's suppose I decided to retrieve the other die that was already in that location, because you cannot retrieve the die that you just put down. Then I would get to collect steel again, since I'm retrieving a die from that location. Then I would put the die onto my board in the matching guild, and then run my guild and collect my stuff from that as well. So yeah, so you know, some things are harder to get than others. However, after everyone has finished placing all 3 of their dice and retrieving 3 dice and running their guilds 3 different times, so depending on which color die you have, that would determine which guild you run, then you do the end of the round phase. During the end of the round phase, you're going to take your 3 dice now from the guilds and then place them onto the right side of your player board. The right side of your player board is going to give you different kinds of actions that now you can use with those dice, and again, depending on the number on that die, you will, you know, get to see how much you get of a certain thing. So something that's always going to be available to you throughout the entire game and, you know, your turns and the end of the round as well, is the marketplace that you have on your own personal board, which is kind of like a trade, a trading space. So you'll get to see how many of some things you need in order to get how many of some things else, something else. So when you're placing your dice onto the right side of the board, there's different locations, and some are going to be better than others. So I'm not going to go through all of the locations, but for example, in one area, it doesn't matter the number you put down, you will get to just run one of your guilds again. In another area, you can exchange wood for ore, and then in addition to the number of the die, and you don't even have to exchange the wood for the ore, you can simply place the die down there and then look at the tile that you have in that section. And again, mine came upgraded, and then depending on the number of die you placed, you would get to collect a certain number of ore. And the same thing for steel. So you can place a die down in the steel section to gain a certain number of steel, but steel are much harder to get. Like the maximum you can get from steel is if you have a higher numbered die, you will be able to collect 4 steel at a time, which when you look at the contracts and how much the contracts cost in certain in terms of certain items, 4 steel, with 1 die is, it seems like a lot, but it's really not. Like, steel is pretty hard to get in this game. So yeah, so you're going to place your dice on the right side of your board all simultaneously to collect the things you want to collect. Then for cleanup, you're going to take all the dice that remain on the board, the main board, roll them, and then put them in each spot one by one so that each location has a die in it. And then you will re-roll all of the dice you have and then place them above their matching colored guilds. And then you're going to start again. And you're going to do this over 4 rounds, 4 seasons. So at the end of a round is when you might be able to even claim one of those personal objectives. So if multiple people claim public. If multiple people claim a public objective at the same time, you both will get the maximum number of points. Once that objective is claimed, it will then be turned sideways, and then any future people will get a lower number of points if they complete that objective. So again, different objectives are like, you know, if you have completed this type of contract this many times, you will get 8 points and so on. How do you win this game? The person with the most gold is going to win this game at the end of the game. So it's not the points, but however, going up on the point track will increase the number of gold you get at the end of the game, because on each point spot is a number of gold indicated there. So at the end of the game, wherever your point tracker ended up, you're also going to collect that in coins, look at however many coins you earned throughout the game, and you will earn coins by completing contracts. And then at the end of the game, you'll have an opportunity to exchange certain things for coins, and then whoever has the most coins will win. And somehow I won this game. So I typically lose games, which is why I started questioning whether my power was overpowered, because I'm like, I won. Like, yes, I do win games now and then, but it's, you know, it's rare. It's not like a common occurrence. So maybe I just did play really well. So when I played, I was really going for this one objective in order to complete 5 of a certain type of contract, which I managed to do. It was really hard because each round I was completing only 1 contract. Then in the last round, I had to complete 2 contracts, which required a crap ton of leather and steel, 2 items which are really hard to get in this game. But luckily I had some upgrade tiles, which let me collect steel and leather when I ran those guilds. And then when I placed my dice at the end of the round, and at the end of the 4th round, I was able to run another guild again. I was able to do some conversions. There's special magical items that you'll be collecting throughout the game, which will help you, that you can, you know, do trades with and stuff like that. So, you know, it's really a game about converting one thing into another. So like throughout the whole game, you're just trying to figure out, what can I convert into something else efficiently in order to complete the most contracts? That's really what it is. It's an engine building and conversion game. So it's very much that. So if you like those kinds of games where you're just kind of converting resources, then I think you will enjoy this game. And if you enjoy the aspect of putting something down, a worker, and retrieving a different worker, then you will enjoy this game. The dice just kind of, you know, ups that a little bit by the numbers. So with the numbers, you know, also have to be mindful of what number you're retrieving and what you can do with that number when it comes to the end of the round on your right side of your personal board. So, you know, it's not just a worker, it's a worker with a number assigned to it, which is going to determine what you get to do. And the colors also determine what you get to do in terms of which guilds you'll get to run when you retrieve a die. So there is that, like, you know, aspect to it, which makes it a little bit more interesting than simply a worker placement game where you're placing a worker and getting a worker back. There is a little bit more something interesting going on here, but at the end of the day, it's a engine building and conversion game. So, you know, when I played it, I enjoyed my play of it, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know, there's already so many of these types of games where you're converting stuff and where you're just building an engine and just converting stuff. So it's just another one of those games with maybe a different theme, with some animals in it and like this, like, you know, like medieval kind of theme in which you're building up armor and building different items and so on. So if you are interested in this kind of a game with maybe a different theme, then I would suggest maybe you check it out. But, you know, I feel like these kinds of games already exist in abundance. You know, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I know that this game is very highly rated, which I can see on BGG. And I recall when this game was on Kickstarter, I think Rahdo praised it really highly, if I remember correctly. I did not back it. I had actually previously covered their other game for Kickstarter when that launched, Cult of the Deep, but I was not contacted to cover this game. But I'm glad I got to play it. I think it's a good game. I just think that these kinds of games already exist in abundance, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, so if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then you should definitely check it out. Like if the theme speaks to you and you like worker placement games with dice and you know, just like doing a lot of conversions and a lot of trading, then you will enjoy this game. So yeah, so that was Forages of Ravenshire. So let's move on. So I played another game of Trolls and Princesses, but this time a 4-player game. So if you watched my video a couple videos ago where I discussed this game in detail, so you can watch that video to learn how it plays. This time I played a 4-player game of it, but the first time I played a 2-player game of it. So as a 4-player game, I feel like it played really well still. In this 4-player game, each person gets 10 turns total, so you have 10 of those nighttime or daytime cards, whatever, action cards to determine how many turns you get in the game. Still a really good game. What I did see in a 4-player game was that there was more of, because you know, in a 4-player game you have 4 village sections of the main board, and each person kind of built up their own section. So each person added like outposts in one section of the board where they could then get a majority of action points in that board and really just, you know, focused on their own area of the board. There was one point in the game where another player went to my section of the board and used my trolls, because I had a bunch of trolls just hanging out in one section of the board with a bunch of my outposts, and he used his troll in order to do some other actions, like, you know, he had a couple trolls in that section, I think. And then he used my trolls to basically just do some raiding, because there's certain actions where you can use other people's trolls, and then there are certain actions where you can only use your own trolls. So it's essentially just basically coming in, using my trolls to do a couple actions and like leaving. And it's like, okay, cool. My trolls just did a bunch of work for him and I got nothing out of it. Just kind of funny. But yeah, he ended up winning. He won by a great deal, if I remember correctly. And none of the other people had played this game before. I was the only person who had, you know, played this game before, and I lost. So I came in the very last place in a 4-player game, which I was like, I just did not expect that. Like, you know, as I said, I think I'm pretty bad at board games. So I'm like, I played this game before. I felt like I was going to do really well. I felt like I have this game down really like pat. Like I just, you know, I just know what I'm going to do. I know what my strategy is going to be, and so on. And somehow I still came in last place. So yeah. One of the other players, his board was really cool, like his cavern network that he was building, because he managed to close it and create a closed loop. So in this game, the pieces, they're pentagons, I think they're called. They've got 5 sides. So with a pentagon shape, it's really hard to get like a solid mass. You're going to have these like little gaps here and there, but he managed to create like a cool like loop. So I'm just going to post a picture of his cave network because I thought it was pretty cool looking. So yeah, but you know, again, I really enjoyed this game, Trolls and Princesses. So, you know, you should watch the previous discussion I did on it if you want to learn how it plays. But I think it's a really, really fun game, and all the other people really enjoyed it as well. You know, there was like some element of luck in terms of which cards you are dealt, because that might determine whether or not you get to put out a princess in a certain village. And as the game progresses and the princesses start to get captured, you could end up being at the mercy of other players, whether a new princess comes out in a location where you have the majority of your outposts and workers, which would allow you to capture a princess, but like you don't have a card that can actually put out a new princess there for you to then capture. So you might become, you know, at the mercy of the other players as the game progresses. So yeah, so that happens. I mean, that happened in my 2-player game as well, where I remember I wasn't sure if another princess would come out or not because I didn't have a card for the village that I needed to put out another princess. But yeah, so, you know, same thing. There's an element of luck in terms of which cards you're given, and whether you're going to be able to put out princesses that you can then capture, you know, so there's that stuff going on as well. But, you know, I feel like there's ways to kind of mitigate luck in this game as well, enough so that I still think it's a pretty strategic game and very enjoyable. So I really, really enjoy this game. So yeah, so, you know, you should check out the previous video to see how it plays in detail. And if it sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. So I forgot to mention another game that arrived recently, which I played, is Forage. So I backed Forage on Kickstarter, which is the third game in this like little trio. It started with Orchard and then Grove and now Forage. So I have previously backed Grove on Kickstarter and I did not have the original Orchard. So when I backed Forage, I also added this on and I got the little tuck box in order to include all of them. So having previously played Grove, never having played Orchard, but now having played Forage a number of times, I'm guessing that they all play similarly. Like Grove and Forage play quite similarly, in which you are going to have different cards that you're placing out and then placing dice on top of them and then trying to just, you know, reach a certain number of pips on your dice in order to then score a certain number of points. So you're going to have like these different cards and they're going to be shuffled and you're going to have 9 cards. So you play each game with 9 cards, you shuffle them and then you draw a hand of 2 cards and then draw 1 card and place it, and that's your starting card. And then you're going to try to place cards on top of other cards strategically, so you have to always cover at least 1 square, but you want to try to place cards strategically so that you can then place dice on top of them. So for example, if I placed a yellow on top of a yellow, I would then get to place a yellow die on top of that with the 1 level pip showing. And then if I covered that spot again with another yellow, I would get to advance that pip to a 3. And then again, if I covered it again with another yellow, I would get to advance it to a 6. And the highest number you can reach, I believe, is 15. If you end up covering an area of a different color, then you need to put either, I believe, a die with a rat on it, or you can use this, which will help you to you can use this once during the game, which will allow you to lose fewer points than you would if you use the mouse on the die, I think. I didn't do that, so I don't remember exactly what the rule is, but you really need to try to cover spaces with their matching colors, because otherwise you will lose a significant number of points at the end of the game. So it's about strategically trying to cover as many spaces as you can. I do wish the rulebook had been a little bit better in explaining the split colored spaces, because I kind of had to look at the example and read the example a couple of times in order to understand how the split level spaces work. So my understanding of it is that if you cover a split space with one of those 2 colors, then you can place the die of the color on top. However, if you then cover that with yet again another square that matches where one of those colors matches that, then the die, I think, it gets to stay, but you do not get to increase the pip level. That is my understanding. If you've played this game, let me know if that's incorrect. But I believe at the end of the game, you do not get to score your dice that are on any split level, spaces. So you want to try to use full spaces in order to increase the pips of your dice and in order to score the most number of points. So I played this game 3 times. And each time I performed very badly, so each time I scored fewer than 30 points, which is the lowest you can score, and it says there's mushroom for improvement. Mushroom, because I think there are mushrooms in this game, or something like that. I think there's mushrooms on some of the cards, yeah. So this is like the fall theme of this game, right? So Grove is like the summer theme with like citrus fruits and stuff like that. So at the end of the game, what you're going to do is once you've placed the final card and adjusted your dice, then you're going to add up all the dice to see how much you have foraged. So you'll subtract 1 for each die on a split area. Okay, so you do get to score them, but you have to subtract 1. And then subtract 2 for each die showing a mouse. They've run off with some of your harvest. And then subtract 5 if the mouse is in the wood. Oh, so I was actually wrong. So this will actually cause you to lose more points than the dice, not fewer. So maybe I should have been mindful of that, because I think I actually used him at some point. So that is the game essentially. There are some recipes on the back that you can play a more advanced variant of the game. So that will just kind of give you some like additional scoring ability or whatever that you can play with. So that is Forage. So it's a nice little solo game. It's a solo only game, but it says you can play it 2-player, but you would need 2 copies of the game. So again, I've only played Forage and Grove. I have yet to play with my copy of Orchard, but from what I can remember, Grove plays in exactly the same way, but it's summer themed with citrus fruits instead. So yeah, so they fit into this nice little cute box, and yeah, so that was Forage. So if you enjoy solo games that have a low footprint, a small footprint, and are easy to play, then check this out. So yeah, so let's move on. So let's go into games that I have received or bought. So one of my new arrivals, sorry, I was just thinking for a minute, is Volume 1 Ludos. So I backed this on Kickstarter. I was a bit annoyed because I remember that I had previously backed Bag Chal, which is one of the small games in this box. So I guess, you know, if I had known that they were going to come out with a collection with 4 different games, I wouldn't have backed that. It's just a small little game though, so I'm probably just going to give it away or give it to FlagCon or something like that. So this one comes with 4 little games in it: Bag Chal, Ute, Hasami, Shogi, and Jarmo. So Ute is from Korea, Hasami, Shogi is from Japan, Jarmo is from Mongolia, and Bag Chal is from Nepal. It's a really cool box. Mine came a little bit damaged. I think that this is one of those instances where if you are a collector of board games, you would want an undamaged box if you are planning on reselling it or something like that at a later point, because it's a really nice box. It feels really nice. It's not like cardboard. I don't know what it is, but it just feels really nice. And yeah, just seeing it a little dent in the corner, it's not ideal because it is kind of a piece of artwork, and I think it would have looked nicer if all 4 corners were pointy and sharp, but oh well, whatever. So yeah, so you're just going to pull out the game you want to play, and then it has its own little box, which you can then open up and play the game. And there's a pouch inside of each little box that you would pull out. So yeah, so this is like the Asia collection that I backed on Kickstarter. So they're almost all, I think they're all, okay, so not all of them. So 3 of them are simply 2-player games, but one of them is 2 to 4 players. Ute is 2 to 4 players. So yeah, so just a cute little collection of games, which are like old traditional games. So I don't expect them to be super complicated or whatever. I expect them to be pretty simple games. So yeah, so looking forward to maybe just trying those at a cafe with a friend or something like that someday. So I had backed that on Kickstarter, and that arrived. So I wonder if they do another collection like this, which continent or whatever they'll choose. I think it would be pretty cool if they like the Middle East. Middle East is not a continent, but if they went to that region of the world and did like a box like this, that would be super cool. Or South America, or even Europe. Like that would be really cool to see like some European themed games that are like really old. Maybe some like Nordic games with cool Nordic artwork or whatever. So I think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, so that arrived, and then let me show you a big arrival which came. So this is a game I backed. So again, that Ludos thing is something that I backed on my own, so that is not a review copy. Sorry for the shaking camera. However, the game I'm about to show you is in fact a review copy. Oh, actually, I'm going to pause for a second because it included something which I've left off to the side. So 1 second. So my review copy, and the publisher was very kind to gift me a review copy of Nestlings. So this arrived. So the publisher, I backed the Kickstarter at $1, and then he credited my pledge manager with a copy of this game, and he credited it with the deluxe version, which was very nice. This box is pretty cool. Like the word Nestlings is kind of raised. It's kind of nice. Well, it is nice, not just kind of nice. So here is the rule book, and I don't know how to organize this game. I haven't really read through the rules, but what I thought were distinct player colors, I think are actually not player colors. So there's this board. Again, have not yet played this, so I don't know what these boards are or anything like that. And then there's this one main big board. And it looks like there's 2 sides to it. So there's this side, and then there's this side. So maybe I'm imagining you choose one side or the other, depending on player count. That is my guess, but again, I really do not know. And then let me show you the inside of the box. So there's different kinds of containers, storage containers, and bags, and so on. So there are these cards. So I'm going to show you some cards. So like here are the backs of some cards, like different season cards and so on. So here's the fronts. Those are just player aids. Oh, are these upside down cards? I don't. Okay, some of them are upside down. Let me just get through those. So yeah, it just looks like there's just a bunch of text on these cards. And then there are these nest goals. And on the back of the nest goals are different kinds of tokens. And then there are what look like weather cards and stuff like that with different like animals and stuff like them on the back. So I really, again, do not know how this plays. There's this bird token, which I'm guessing is a first player token. Who knows? And then there is another token of some kind. Yeah, that's double-sided. So that is in one box. And then here are the things that I thought were player boxes, but now I'm thinking that they're not. Based on what I just saw briefly of player setup, it looks like players will get like these things of all different colors. So it does kind of, you know, again, I ended up getting the deluxe version, which came with these bird miniatures, which are really cool. I do love birds. I have 3 bird feeders in my backyard, so very cool. And then it has a bunch of these different like triangle tokens. Sorry, without a ring light in front, it doesn't really focus my camera. And then when you lift up the top layer very carefully, because these were such a pain to put in here, like just kind of a pain. Then there's dice, and then these 2 small tokens of the same color. So dice in that color with different like regions, it looks like, on it. So yeah, so each color has its own thing like this. And then there is a bag for each different color. So each different color has tokens of that color in it with different like animals on the tokens. So I think that these are what birds eat. So different kinds of birds will be eating these items. And then this looks like a worm. So each bag also has 1 worm token in it, because that's what I read you're supposed to do. So there are 4 of those bags in total with the different color tokens. And then there's this black bag, and I just put meeples in here because I didn't know what else goes in that bag. So the game came with these meeples, which would not fit into the boxes, the containers. So I just stuck them into the black bag. So yeah, so different bird meeples, which are nice. It looks like there's 2 or 3, no, 2 of each color. And then there is this container, which contains some other like tokens, which look like point tokens and so on. And some other token of some kind. I'll just keep it shut. And then there are these boards. So there's this board. And then these are individual player boards. So this is the Mountain Bluebird. And it looks like it's double layered, which is nice. So those triangle pieces will kind of just slot into the board, which is super nice. On the other side, we have the Rosy Finch. We have the Verdin, whatever. I've never heard of that bird, but pretty cool. Ooh, this one's pretty. The Cactus Wren. I think I want to play as that. That looks really pretty. We have the American Dipper. And then we have the Malachite Kingfisher. We have the African Hoopie. That's a really cool bird. Ooh, the Lilac-breasted Roller. Oh, that's pretty. That's really pretty. So yeah, lots of cool birds to choose from to play as. So yeah, so that is the game. Basically all the components. Again, I didn't show you the different colors because it would just be repeats. So yeah, so looking forward to playing this at some point in time. So, you know, grateful to the publisher for sending this to me. I think, you know, this may be my second bird themed game because I actually don't own Wingspan, but I do own that one bird game, Bird Watcher. So I can't recall owning other bird games. So yeah, so I think this is my second bird themed, like solely bird themed game. So yeah, so I'm excited to play this at some point and then tell you guys how it plays, hopefully soon, and share my thoughts. So let's move on. Yeah, I'm an idiot. The thing that I actually stopped the video for earlier to go, to show you guys was this dice tray, which I then totally forgot to show in the end. So yeah, I don't know if it came like was an add-on or what, but yeah, the game came with like one of these dice trays, which is super duper nice. Like this dice tray is really, really nice. Just really, really great quality. So I'm really excited to use this. So I forgot to show that to you guys, but that came with nestlings. So now we can move on. So games I'm backing, still just the two as last week, which are Luthier and Yonder. So Luthier has, let's see how many days it has left. I think that these campaigns were extended and went on for a long time because they probably wanted to maybe showcase the games at Gen Con, which is currently happening as I'm shooting this video. I'm shooting this video on a Saturday, so I'm guessing that they probably wanted to get more backers from people who would have seen this game at Gen Con. So Luthier has 4 days to go and it's already raised over $602,000 with over 5,000 backers. And Yonder has, let's see about Yonder. Actually, I don't know if Yonder would be at Gen Con because that's a UK publisher and I don't know if they ever go to Gen Con. But I can't talk today. Yonder has 12 days to go and it has over $104,000 raised with over 1,200 backers. So I'm backing both of those at the pledge manager level to get my production copies of those games since I covered them for their Kickstarter, and that's currently all I'm backing. In terms of games that I am culling, I, still need to go through. I haven't had time in the last week to start putting aside games that I want to cull, but I am very serious about it. Like, I just do think things are out of control here, and I really, really need to start trimming down my collection. So hopefully starting in the next video, I will have more games to show you that I am culling. I thought a cool thing to do would be to maybe, I still need to figure out how I'm going to do this, but maybe out of the games that I'm culling, I can do certain giveaways, but as money is tight because I spend a lot of money on cat food and feeding stray colonies every week. And I still have a significant amount of credit card debt that I need to pay off. So I was thinking of doing giveaways where people can win a free game if they're able to pay for shipping or something like that. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in with some of the games that I plan on culling. Of course I would make sure it's a good game that people would be interested in. I'm not gonna just, cull games that I think people have no interest in and be like, oh, if you want this, you can have it, but just pay for shipping. Like maybe, but I guess what's someone's trash is someone else's treasure, who knows. But that's something I'm thinking of doing. And for people who watch my videos and who comment on my videos, so it would have to be people who I've seen comment on a regular basis or semi-regular basis on my videos, because I want to reward people who have been in my community or my channel, whatever, for a long time, who have shown support for my channel. I don't want a bunch of people just showing up just to get free games. Essentially, like, I think that's not fair to me, who is trying to expand her channel and gain subscribers, which is happening at a very slow rate because every so often I lose a bunch of subscribers whenever I post something that's controversial. So I'd want to reward the people who stick around and give them an opportunity to get some of the games that I am planning on culling. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. If I'm culling something that you would really like, are you willing to just pay for shipping in order to get that game? I do have some overseas viewers who I would also like to do this with, in which case, if there is a game that they would really like and they would be willing to contribute to part of the cost for shipping, that would be great. Maybe I can take it with me to when I go to like Spiel and then ship it from there, which would maybe reduce the shipping cost rather than shipping it from America. Like, maybe we can work something out, because I would like to somehow reward the international viewers as well. So let me know if you've watched this, whether that's something that you're interested in. So let's move on. Sorry if I just seem like I'm out of steam. I am out of steam for whatever reason. I just feel really exhausted right now. I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with me going to bed late and staying up for no reason at all, except for scrolling on TikTok and Instagram, just doom scrolling, So anyway, so updates. I guess I have no cat updates this week. No major cat updates to share. I guess the only update I have is that if you've been watching my cat updates for a long time, you will know that there was a colony number 3 and all but one of the cats, Ghost Cat, were trapped and then relocated to a barn. So kind of bad news there. I learned from the rescue organization that helped to trap those cats and rehome them to a barn that the owner of the barn says she hasn't seen those cats in a long time. So maybe they, she tried to let them get acclimated to the place while they were in cages and large cages, and then release them when she thought that they would stick around, because they would realize, oh, they have a consistent food source and a nice place to sleep and spend time. But apparently the woman hasn't seen these cats in quite some time. So I don't know. That's just really, really disappointing to hear that we, spent all this time and effort to feed these cats, take care of them. I built them shelters. I would feed them and give them fresh water and, did a lot to try to help these poor cats. And then we relocated them to a barn and now they're gone. And it's just sad. Who knows? Maybe a wild animal ate them. I don't know. It's just really, really sad. It's just more bad news. I'm just like, and, the rescue organization told me that that's sometimes what happens when you rehome animals. It's just one of the risks. But, in the end, she said it was still safer for us to put them in the barn rather than leave them in this area, which was really not a safe area for them, just near too much really busy traffic, near a highway, near an overpass, just a very unsafe area for cats. And Ghost Cat is still left behind there, and still have not managed to trap Ghost Cat. And I was getting assistance in feeding Ghost Cat from 2 other people who said that they're just fed up and don't want to feed him anymore, which is really disappointing. Because I already spend every single day going and feeding 2 big colonies of cats, which takes up a significant amount of time and money. Like I spend a lot of money every month in feeding these 2 big colonies. So this 3rd colony, where I had put in a lot of effort to build shelters, build a feeding station and all of this stuff, and got 2 people to help in feeding this cat once a day, because there was only 1 cat left and just needed to be fed and watered once a day. And now these 2 people are saying that they're just tired of doing it and they're going to stop soon. And so that would fall on me to continue feeding this cat until he is someday trapped. But the trappers are more busy with trapping kittens and focusing on that in big colonies. So it might come down to me to trying to trap this cat, which is going to be really hard because apparently he's a very savvy cat, this Ghost Cat, and he does not even go inside the traps when they are there. He'll like inspect them from outside but never go inside. And I did take a trapping course, but that would require me to actually buy a trap because I don't own a trap. So I would need to buy a trap and then spend hours of my time trying to trap this cat. And he apparently only feeds at night, from what the cameras have shown us. So he only comes at around either 7:30 p.m. or around 10:30 p.m. and sometimes much later. So I don't know what to do. I'm just, with my schedule the way it is and with everything else going on in my life, I don't know if I can get this cat trapped. But first of all, I need to buy a trap. So yeah, I need to figure out what to do about that. I'm just really, really disappointed that the 2 other people just want to stop feeding because they're just tired of it. Yeah, he only requires a bit of food, so I guess, I can do it. But still, a little bit every day adds up. So, because I would fill up 1 full small bowl of dry food and then give him 1 big can of wet food a day. So we will see what happens with Ghost Cat. I'll keep you updated on that, but no updates with the other cats, the other cat colonies. I guess an update is that I can only go once a day to these colonies to feed them. So when I go once a day, I fill up several huge bowls of dry food and I give them like 3 to 4 cans of wet food. But the rescue organizations have told me that they should really have morning feeders because I go after work. So I go when I finish work, and feed these cats at the 2 colonies, but they've told me that these cats really need to be fed in the morning. So made an announcement in a local Facebook group to see if people are interested in assisting, and a number of people emailed. I had created a special email address that they can email at, so not my personal email, and I did not disclose the location of these colonies because there are a lot of bad people in this world who try to capture innocent stray cats and kittens in order to use them for illegal dog fighting, as to use them for bait for dog fighting. And I'm a very paranoid person, and just having been a lawyer, I still am a lawyer, but like having worked for organizations where I was able to see that dog fighting is real and it actually does happen, even in small local, like small cities that you maybe would think that, oh, it doesn't happen, but no, there are bad people everywhere. And even locally, dog fighting can and probably does take place. Like I've seen instances of people who've been, arrested and then convicted for dog fighting. Unfortunately, the laws are not very strict, and they need to be much stricter and harsher for animal abusers. So I'm very paranoid, and I don't want to just disclose locations of these colonies. Even if people seem well-meaning, I want to be able to vet them somehow and just kind of see whether their intentions are pure and whether they will be committed to feeding every day. So everyone who responded said they can do 1 day a week. So I would have to see if they can actually commit to their 1 day a week and get a schedule going for morning feeders. And I would have to show them the ropes. So that would require me to go out like 7 times with 7 different people to show them, because they only want to do 1 day a week, to show them what I do and how, to take care of these cats, how to feed them, how to be on the lookout for any health issues, any new cats. And, there's quite a bit of training that's going to be involved. So that's something I need to do as well. Since the rescue organization said that these colonies need morning feeders and once a day is not enough for them. But all I can afford right now in terms of time and money is once a day, because again, I spend I think at this point I'm spending like $400 minimum a month on just cat food for these colonies, and that doesn't even include my own personal cats at home. So those are the cat updates, I think. So again, if you're ever feeling generous and want to donate towards taking care of these cats, you can always donate via Ko-fi or PayPal. I would just ask you use the friends and family option if you decide to donate via PayPal, so that it doesn't take out a fee. Just my email address, boardgamesinaminutte@gmail.com. Or if you want to, once it starts getting closer to autumn, maybe I'll make an Amazon wish list that people can then just buy stuff directly if they want to donate. If any of you want to donate to helping take care of these cats, I'll try to create some Amazon wish lists of cat food and like shelters that I can build and stuff like that, and so on. So I guess that's the cat update. So I know I said I had no updates, and then I ended up talking for like 8 minutes. So let's move on. So let's do our fiction discussion first. So as you all know, we are reading the Dollar Gut Dream Department Store, and we were supposed to read chapters 4 and 5 for today. So chapter 4 was called Trauma Refund Request, and in this chapter you kind of learn about this nightmare maker. So he's not a dream maker, I guess we should call him a nightmare maker, where he makes bad dreams and anxiety dreams, and you learn about some of the dreams that people have. It was actually really reassuring to me to see the kinds of anxiety dreams that people have, and to see that I'm not alone. Like, clearly she must have done some research on dreams and see that people have these kinds of dreams, because I have these kinds of dreams. So I'll talk about some of my reoccurring nightmares or anxiety dreams, because I have so many of them. So I've been out of high school for a long time. I'm not going to say how many years, but a long time. It's been a long time since I've been out of high school, and I still have high school nightmares. And there's 4 distinct high school dreams I have. And as you guys know, like I mentioned a long time ago, I started taking an art class, which is once per week this summer, and I'm still taking this art class. But I've had a reoccurring dream about an art class since before I started taking this art class. So it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm now currently taking an art class as an adult, but I have a reoccurring dream where I'm in an art class and I've not I failed to do my final project. Like for a final project, I was supposed to have a certain number of pieces done and I don't, and I'm going to fail my art class, and I'm just really, really panicked about it. So that's one reoccurring dream I have about high school. Another one has to do with math class. So I have a reoccurring math class dream where I'm in a math class and I have no clue what the heck is going on and I'm failing. Like I'm doing really, really badly, which is so bizarre because I was actually at the top of my math class. So I live in the state of New York, and you know, back when I was in high school, the Regents exams, I've heard that they've been really dumbed down, which is really sad. Like I feel really sorry for future generations, because I'm like, if standards have been lowered, I'm like, I don't understand why they needed to be lowered, because back in my day when I was able to take these exams, I got 100 on every single Regents exam I took in math. So didn't miss a single question, got 100. So again, I was at the top of my math class, and I was always a year ahead in math and sciences. So I don't understand why things have been dumbed down. But anyway, so back when I was a student in high school, I got 100 on every single Regents exam, and I was really, really good at math, and I really, really loved it. But I have a reoccurring dream where I'm failing in math class, and I just have no clue what's going on. So that's another weird dream again. And then another reoccurring high school dream I have has to do with science class. And I was also at the top of my science classes. So I got 100 on my biology Regents. And again, I was in advanced science, so I was a year ahead. And chemistry, I missed one question on my Regents exam. And the reason I missed it was because I filled in the wrong bubble. Like my chemistry teacher actually found me while I was in another class, pulled me out of that class and asked me how I missed one question, because I was really smart in chemistry. Like I remember sitting in class and him like trying to explain a new concept, and I would immediately get it and immediately know what I would need to do in order to do a certain type of calculation. And he would be like, Sarah, just keep your mouth shut and give other students a chance. Like that's how good I used to be at chemistry. So I missed one question because I freaking filled in the wrong bubble. Like he found my test booklet and saw that on my test booklet I circled the right answer but filled in the wrong bubble on the test sheet. So that was just really disappointing to me. I don't know why I care so much, because in the end I did not end up doing sciences in college, because I was in university, because I was very rebellious. I know I'm going off on super tangents here, but I was super rebellious as a child, and my mom wanted me to become a doctor, which like my two sisters are, and I was like, no, I'm not going to become a doctor just because you want me to, even though I was really good at science and math, and I really loved science and math so freaking much. And I should have done that. Instead, I majored in business, which I had no interest in whatsoever, and finished my business degree requirements in university in 3 years, and then kind of was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And that's when I ended up going to graduate school after finishing university. Then I went to graduate school for Middle Eastern Studies, and then eventually law school. So anyway, that's a huge tangent. So again, I was really good at science, but I have a reoccurring dream where I'm in a science class and it's the end of the year and we have to submit our final paper. And our final paper was supposed to be something like some new novel idea in science, which is crazy for high school students, first of all. Like science student in high school should not be expected to come up with some new theory that does not exist already. But we were supposed to come up with some new novel idea and write a paper on it. And it's like the night before it's due and I'm panicked because I have no idea what I even want to write about. Like forget about even having the books and everything to write the paper. Like I don't even know what I want to write about and the paper is due the next day. So that's the third reoccurring dream I have about high school. And finally, actually there were 5, but I'll tell you what the other one is. Sorry. This one I stopped having, and this one actually kind of had a resolution. So the 4th one I used to have was this one, and this one took place in social studies class. So this one was where I was in a class and did not realize that I was registered for that class, missed every single class, and now it's the end of the year and I realize I'm going to get a big fat F on my report card because I skipped every single social studies class just because I didn't know I was in it, or because for whatever reason, I just skipped it. And now I'm super panicked. But I remember this one time where this dream actually had a resolution. And since then, I have not had this dream. So since this resolution, I still get the art class and the math class and the science class dreams, but not the social studies one. So I one time had a dream where it was resolved, where I went to the guidance counselor's office and convinced them to, very late in the game, it's like we're in final season, it's finals week of the last week of school or whatever, and I convinced the guidance counselor to remove the class from my schedule, so as though it never existed, so that I would not get an F. And she did, and ever since then I have not had that reoccurring social studies dream, which super interesting that I was able to do that in my head subconsciously. So very, very weird. So those are the high school dreams I have. And so, you know, seeing people in this book have anxiety dreams just kind of reassured me, like, okay, I am normal. Like, people do have dreams like this, even though they've been out of high school for a very, very long time. Like, it's very weird. Like, why do we even have these dreams when we're not even in high school anymore, or experiencing the thing that we're dreaming about that's giving us like severe anxiety? Another dream I have that gives me severe anxiety, which was actually mentioned in this chapter, which was also reassuring, was a paralysis dream. So I have a dream where I'm really struggling to walk and I cannot move my legs. I cannot like actually like get my legs to move. Like, I have to like kind of like drag my legs behind me, like this paralysis dream. And that dream like scares the crap out of me, and it's always scared the crap out of me. But to see that other people have that nightmare too, because again, I think she must have done her research about what kinds of reoccurring stress or anxiety or nightmares, dreams or nightmares people have, and it was mentioned in this chapter. So again, that was just kind of reassuring, like, oh wow, other people have had dreams like that too. Like, I just don't know, you know, I don't know what it means, but it's a scary one, like to, you know, feel like you can't walk. But at the end of this chapter, you see that these people, you know, some of them get resolutions, like they wake up realizing, hey, you know, it's just a dream. Like, I actually can walk. Like, I'm no longer in the army. I'm no longer facing, you know, bullets or whatever, like these people were stress dreaming about, and it's all fine for them in the end. So just like the way they wake up and never have those stress dreams again because they've realized that it's actually not real, I need to do that too. Like the way I was able to resolve my social studies dream, I just somehow need to resolve my math and my art class dream and my science class dream somehow. So yeah, if I can resolve those 3 class dreams I have, that I have recurring dreams of, and no longer have those stress dreams, that would be great. So I don't know how to do that. Like, again, that whole social studies thing and how I was able to like somehow in my dream like convince a guidance counselor finally, after having had that dream countless times, I do not understand how that even works. Like, the brain is a huge mystery, right? Dreams are a huge mystery, I think. And then the next chapter was like kind of like about Santa Claus. So the next chapter, what was it called? Chapter 5. Let me find it. So yeah, chapter 5, the Dream Makers General Assembly. Very interesting. So in this chapter, you see they get together, they convene at Nicholas's house, who ends up, I guess, being Saint Nicholas, or not Saint Nicholas, but this guy who is basically Santa Claus. And you learn that Santa Claus is a dream maker. So he actually doesn't actually, like, Santa Claus does not exist as the way humans have imagined Santa Claus. He's a dream maker. Like, he, you know, his whole house is like located on a mountain, a snowy mountaintop. It's like decorated for Christmas, and he gives people dreams, Christmas dreams, and there's like even some discussion about Christmas and how you know, humans now expect gifts and this and that, and it's very, very interesting. I just find it a little bit weird. It seems like he's got an issue with the leprechauns. Like, did anyone else get that feeling? Like, I'm just like, what's the deal with Santa Claus and the leprechauns? Like, does he not like leprechauns because like they're more associated with St. Patrick's Day, and he, I don't know, he just, I don't know. It just felt like there was some kind of tension there between, it feels really silly saying there's tension there between Santa Claus and the leprechauns. It's just a very lighthearted book. So yeah, but just very, very bizarre. I felt like there was some tension between Santa Claus and the leprechauns. So yeah, and you see, I think that Penny has a crush on that one guy, which is cute, super cute. I wish that was the case for me. I wish I had someone in person who I could have a crush on, and, you know, just like be like, oh, it's so exciting, I'm gonna see this person at game night tonight, and blah blah blah, whatever. But no such case for me at the moment. So but yeah, super cute, like how, you know, she's got a crush on this dude, this nightmare maker. Maximus is his name, actually. So yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say about the Santa Claus chapter. One thing I do have to say is, I don't know why it took me this long to figure this out. Oh, I have 2 things to say. Actually, one of the dream makers' names is Wawa. So Wawa was my nickname growing up. So my name is actually supposed to be pronounced Sarah, not Sarah. So it's supposed to be pronounced Sarah, which is the Arabic, and Persian way of saying my name, right? So growing up, my older sister, who was just 1 year older than me, so when I was born, she was just 1 year old. She couldn't say Sarah, so she ended up saying Wawa, and Wawa stuck as my nickname. So for the longest time, everyone just called me Wawa. My mom, my dad, my uncles and aunts, everyone just called me Wawa until like I was like in high school or something. And then eventually it just faded away, which kind of makes me sad because both of my sisters, they still have their nicknames and mine just kind of, you know, faded into oblivion. I don't know why. Like people just stopped using it eventually. But I guess maybe Wawa is just very weird for an adult. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But anyway, so there's a dream maker named Wawa in this book, which, you know, is just kind of funny. And then there's a dream maker called Yasnooze. And for a while I was like, oh, that's such an interesting name. I'm like trying to figure out like what the origin is of that name, like maybe like, you know, what ethnicity it's related to or whatever. And then it's like Yasnooze, like ya snooze ya lose, like Yasnooze, like really funny name. It's just really cool. I just really like it. But I'm wondering what Otra means. So her name is Yasnooze Otra. So if someone can figure out what the Otra part means, that would be good, because I don't know what that part means. But yeah, I think that these 2 chapters were pretty fun. So I guess my question of the week is, do you have stress dreams or nightmares that are reoccurring? And do you think that you can actually dream a solution to stop having them? And how do you do that? Like, again, when I dreamed a resolution to one of my stress dreams, I don't know how that happened. Like, it just happened one day where it just happened where I just dreamt a resolution, and it's not like I was controlling my dream. Like, I think that that's called like a certain dream state. I think, I can't remember the term for it, but you need to be in a lucid dreaming. I think it's called lucid dreaming, when you can control your dream. And I don't experience lucid dreaming. I have extremely vivid dreams. Like my dreams are so vivid that sometimes I wake up and I can't tell if something was a dream or a memory, because it was so vivid and so realistic. And like I wake up and I'm like, did I actually experience that? Like, you know, at that point in time in my life, or was that just a dream I had last night? You know, so sometimes I'll like, you know, have like these flashbacks, like, you know, just doing something random, and I'm like, is that a dream or was that a memory? Like, it's really crazy. Like sometimes I just don't know. So I have extremely vivid dreams where I cannot tell the difference, but even my really crazy dreams are very vivid. So I have insane dreams that would make amazing movies, like amazing thriller or horror movies. Like I have the most incredible dreams with the most incredible twists in them, and like when I wake up I'm like, holy shit, like that would make an amazing movie, and I would be like a millionaire if I could somehow turn that into a script. But unfortunately, you know, when I wake up I'll immediately remember it, and then all the pieces will just start falling apart and I can no longer put it together. And I would not be able to write an amazing script based on the dream I had anyway, because I think that that would be really hard. But I have these incredible dreams with these incredible twists in them, and oh my God, if only I could find a way to convert my dreams into like a video or something, I could become a freaking millionaire, because my dreams are just so freaking awesome. So yeah, so that was my question of the week for the dream book, I guess, is do you have reoccurring stress dreams? And you don't have to share what they are unless you want to, but if you want to share them to make me feel less alone, I guess that would be nice. But again, you don't have to, because I realize that can be very personal. So yeah, so for next week, let's read, I wonder how many chapters are actually left. So chapter 6 and then chapter 7. So yeah, so there is still a chapter 6 and a chapter 7. And it looks like there are, let me see how many chapters there are in total. There's an epilogue there, so I don't know what's the chapter before the epilogue. Oh, then there's an epilogue 1. I guess we can count epilogue 1 and 2 as one chapter because they're pretty short. So chapter 9. So yeah, so if we read for next week chapter 6 and 7, I think it'll work out. Then for the following week, we'll be able to do chapters 8 and 9, I guess, and then maybe the epilogues we can do in 1 week together. Okay, so yeah, so just for next week, read chapters 6 and 7. So let's move on. So now it's time to have our nonfiction book club discussion, and if you remember, we were supposed to read up to the break on page 75. So this chapter, just like every other chapter in this book, was super frustrating to read. Like, I'm just like, you know, again, I read this book a couple years ago, but honestly, I'm gonna be really honest, I feel like I kind of skimmed through it, and I've been taking in a lot more detail this time around because I've actually been taking notes and I've been highlighting, and like I said, it's really heavy reading. So I think the first time I read it, and I just, you know, sometimes I'm one of those readers, again, going off topic, where I can read something and I might not really fully like digest it because I haven't focused enough. So I think that was the case the first time I read it. So some of the stuff when I'm reading it, it almost feels like the first time again. So for some of the things, that's how it feels. For some of the stuff, not so much, but for some of the stuff, it does feel like that. So again, very, 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 very frustrating. So this chapter, I feel like, talks a lot about how the rest of the Arab world really failed the Palestinians, and of course, the Americans and the British. And you find how the power balance shifts in the world post-World War II, from Britain being a great power to the US and the USSR being great powers. And you really see that happening in this chapter. You see how even the Zionist movement, the Zionist leaders, they're intelligent enough to see that it's the US they need to be cozying up to get their objectives met. They even like start destroying certain like British things within Israel, like or attacking some British thing, base or whatever in Israel, just to get the British people out. And they're starting to cozy up to the Americans. So I just found it incredibly frustrating to see how the Arab world just failed the Palestinians. And you see that again today. Like if you have been watching the news or following the news about Palestine since October, you have seen how the Arab world just fucking sucks. So the rest of the Arab world, especially Saudi Arabia, I absolutely hate them. I've always hated Saudi Arabia. And like the United Arab Emirates, like those nations, like I fucking hate all of these nations because they all fail Palestine time and time again. They're more concerned about their own interests. They even helped Israel at certain points by still allowing Israel to use their airspace and do this and not ban Israel, and like not ban Israel airplanes from using their ports, their airspace, or not ban ships from using ports, and this and that, like all this stuff that's been happening since October, where there's these Arab nations who should care about fellow Arabs, they just don't. Like, these Arab leaders are corrupt, and I feel like you see a lot of that in this chapter, where you're starting to see the early, the beginnings of the corruption of these Arab leaders and just selling their souls for money and stuff like that and power. And you really start to see that happening in this chapter, and how the Arab world just failed the Palestinians. It's just really, really sad and frustrating. And so you're seeing the setup to the Nakba in this chapter, and then it actually happening. So the Nakba, or the catastrophe, as the Palestinians and everyone else who knows about it calls it. So that's when the first great expulsion and extermination of the Palestinians happened, right? So the Nakba, at least 72,000 of the 1.3 million Palestinians were made refugees. Oh, sorry, it starts earlier than that. So it says, by the summer of 1949, the Palestinian polity had been devastated and most of its society uprooted. Some 80% of the Arab population of the territory that at war's end became the new state of Israel had been forced from their homes and lost their lands and property. At least 720,000 of the 1.3 million Palestinians were made refugees. Just really heartbreaking. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just really heartbreaking to see, what happened to the Palestinians and has been happening to them since then. It's just really, really sad. Just really, really sad. So the chapter goes on a lot, talking about the history of like what was happening post World War II, how unfortunately the Palestinians could not unite. Again, you see sellouts, even back then. It's just really heartbreaking that there would be Palestinians who are essentially what I would call sellouts or shills, who put their own personal interests ahead of the Palestinian people. And these Palestinians who unfortunately could not get their act together and get on the same page about certain things, which led to them not being able to develop like an organization which would give them a stronger voice, So you see a lot of talk about the Arab nations and the Arabs trying to develop something that would be similar to what the Zionists had at that point in time. It was really sad to hear about like how when they finally got something going and they raised some money, like, oh my God, how much money did the Zionists raise even back then? Like there was, I think yeah, so by the mid-1990s, the JNF, which was the Jewish, I think it's called the National Fund, if I remember correctly, had raised 3.5 million for the colonization of Palestine in the United States alone annually. So annually, and this is back in the 1930s, was raising $3.5 million. $3.5 million back in the 1930s is a shit ton of money. Like a shit ton of money. Like, unless by 3.5 million, he's saying like 3.5 million in today's money, but I doubt that, because the amount of money that the Israelis make today, the Zionists earn today, not earn, but like are given today, like, you know, we're talking about billions of dollars. So I'm thinking that the 3.5 million refers to the amount back then, which again, a shit ton of money. Like if you watch shows like Mad Men and see how much even 50 cents could buy you in the 1960s, you will realize how much freaking money this was in the 1930s. Like absolute insanity. How much the Jewish funds and the Zionist funds were earning back then. And the Arabs just unfortunately could not get their shit together. So yeah, you know, so it talks about different important people during this time and the roles they played. So, you know, I won't go into too much detail about that. So again, yeah, I just want to get towards the end of the chapter, the end of this first half of the chapter, where I think I want to talk about a lot of stuff that happened then. But yeah, I'm just really infuriated with all these other Arab countries and how they treated the Palestinians back then and how they're still treating them today. Like, it's just really infuriating. But that's the world for you. That's just the world where people are corrupt, power, you know, people in power are corrupt. So yeah, it says, you know, so at one point in the chapter towards the end, it says, so it talks about the Saudi Arabia's regime and its influences. So, you know, at this point, the king of Saudi Arabia is getting cozy with America and made a deal with America for, you know, their oil. You know, which is what you see today. Like, why does the US turn a blind eye to all of the human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia? Because of oil, Like, it'll speak up when, you know, a human rights abuse takes place in Iran, a human rights crime takes place in Iran, but like Saudi Arabia is notorious for human rights violations, yet do you ever see America saying shit about it? No. Like, instead, America will try to cover up Saudi Arabia's you know, crimes against humanity. So anyway, it says this dependency and the ignorance of generation after generation of Arab rulers about the workings of the American political system and international politics would consistently deprive the Arab world of any possibility of resisting American influence or shaping US policy. How fucking true is that? Like, as someone who has studied Middle Eastern history, absolutely fucking true. Like, I'm like, why are these Arabs so fucking stupid? Like, why can you just not get your shit together? You know, listen to really intelligent people and put those intelligent people in positions of power and get your countries back under control, under your control, and stop being the puppets of America and the West. And then it says, by contrast, the Zionist movement applied a highly developed understanding of global politics, which is very true. So it says, the movement also drew on deep roots and extensive connections in the United States. And then it talks about the people and those connections that it had, which again, you know, very true. Like, they were very intelligent and very like savvy early on and knew what to do. And that's when you see that this chapter, this section, it says, but the Yishuv, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Yishuv had grown more and more hostile. So that's like the Jewish like population, I think, had grown more and more hostile to its British patron after the passage of the 1939 White Paper. This hostility erupted with assassinations of British officials. And then it culminated in the 1946 blowing up of the British headquarters, the King David Hotel, with the loss of 91 lives. The British soon found themselves unable to master the armed opposition of virtually the entire Yishuv, whose potent military and intelligence organizations they had themselves reinforced during the Great Revolt and World War II. yada yada, Great Britain finally capitulated in Palestine. So this is where you see where the Zionists, who are intelligent and savvy, realize that after World War II, it's the United States who they need to cozy up to get their shit done that they want done in Palestine, and just kicked the British out, essentially. Like, wow. Like, imagine if, you know, the Arabs had been actually able to unite and come together with a common cause and goal and be able to do that. But again, you saw in this chapter how different Arab leaders had their own ambitions and their own plans. And because of that, they could never unite. And yeah, so again, power corrupts, greed corrupts. It's just really, really awful. So yeah, so it says, so then it talks about the UN Special Commission on Palestine. Again, very infuriating. Again, you see all these people making decisions about a people and their land without any input from those people. Just absolutely wrong, just 100% wrong. This is what colonization is. So it says, the post-war realignment of international power was apparent in the workings of UN scope, which is the UN Special Commission on Palestine, and in its majority report in favor of partitioning the country in a manner that was exceedingly favorable to the Jewish minority, giving them over 56% of Palestine against the much smaller 17% for the Jewish state envisioned by the 1937 Peel partition plan. So again, this is the Nakba. This is where you see, like, okay, against any input from the Palestinians, whose land it is, they've decided to give the Jewish population, the minority, over 56% of the land. Yeah. So this says, the resolution was another declaration of war, providing the international birth certificate for a Jewish state in most of what was still an Arab majority land, a blatant violation of the principle of self-determination enshrined in the UN Charter. Yep, just absolutely horrible. Like, yeah. At this point, Britain abstained in the partition resolution vote because at this point they had been kicked out and were no longer needed by the Zionists. Yeah, so let's see. So it says the Nakba unfolded over a period of many months. And then it describes what happened during the Nakba, which again is very, very sad. So it talks about how all these different regions and cities in Palestine were being ethnically cleansed. So it says the ethnic cleansing of Palestine began well before the state of Israel was proclaimed on May 15th, 1948, because it goes through city by city and what happened. Just really, really heartbreaking. So it says Jaffa was besieged and ceaselessly bombarded with mortars and harassed by snipers. Once finally overrun by Zionist forces during the first weeks of May, it was systematically emptied of most of its 60,000 Arab residents. Although Jaffa was meant to be part of the stillborn Arab state designated by the 1947 partition plan, no international actor attempted to stop this major violation of the UN resolution. Subjected to similar bombardments and attacks on poorly defended civilian neighborhoods, the 60,000 Palestinian inhabitants of Haifa, the 30,000 living in West Jerusalem, the 12,000 in Safed, 6,000 in Beisan, and 5,500 in Tiberias suffered the same fate. Most of Palestine's Arab urban population thus became refugees and lost their homes and livelihoods. Just utterly heartbreaking. And then it says people fled as news spread of massacres like that on April 9th, 1948, in the village of Deir Yassin near Jerusalem, where 100 residents, 67 of them women, children, and old people, were slaughtered when the village was stormed by Irgun and Haganah assailants. So it says in the first phase of the Nakba before May 15th, 1948, a pattern of ethnic cleansing resulted in the expulsion and panic departure of about 300,000 Palestinians overall, and the devastation of many of the Arabs' majority key urban economic, political, civic, and cultural centers. It's just really, really sad. And since then, as he mentions here, the Nakba can be understood as an ongoing process. So just incredibly heartbreaking. You know, this is the beginnings, this is the Nakba starting, and we're going to see it continue. And we are seeing it continue today. We are seeing it continue today. Like, you see, Gaza has been exterminated of so many of the Palestinians. They've been pushed and pushed and pushed into tiny, tiny, tiny snippets of land. You see major reports coming out about how the Palestinians are suffering from polio and all these other diseases and starvation because they've had their water cut off, they've had their food supply cut off by Israel. Just unbelievable horrors that are taking place. And the Nakba continues. The Nakba continues. That is what the Nakba was. It was a catastrophe that has continued to this day, and it's just utterly heartbreaking. And you see Israel selling pieces of land in Gaza now to illegal settlers, and we saw that the International Court of Justice declared that this occupation is illegal, that Israel needs to remove its settlers from the illegally occupied places, and it needs to pay reparations to the Palestinians. But time and time again, like, we see reports of how there is so much debris, there is so much damage that like is greater than so many of the world's conflicts within a certain number of years combined. Like, the damage there is catastrophic, like absolutely catastrophic. That, can you imagine, even if Israel did give up Gaza, which they've now overtaken and decided, yes, we're going to actually follow an international court ruling, which they won't do. But like, let's suppose they did for a second, and, Palestinians were allowed to return to Gaza. Like, can you imagine what their life is going to be like? And it's going to take them, like, God knows how many years to rebuild. Everything has been destroyed. Hospitals, schools, mosques, everything has been destroyed. There is nothing left in Gaza. There is like absolutely nothing left. Like, it's just very catastrophic. There really is no other word to describe it. Like, if there ever was a catastrophe on Earth, man-made, this is it. Like, this is a man-made catastrophe, which the world has silently allowed to happen. Just unbelievably horrific. Like, and we see that Israel is allowed to compete in the Olympics, whereas, back when the Olympics was happening, when Russia started its invasion of Ukraine, Russia was not allowed to compete in the Olympics. But what do we see? We see actual war criminals, Israelis who have committed war crimes, competing in the Olympics. Like, and we see France, which is a very Islamophobic, racist country, and if you don't know this, like, seriously, just read the fucking news. And they are trying to suppress any time a Palestinian flag is raised. They've been very like racist against Muslim athletes. They've told Muslim women athletes that they cannot wear the hijab, yet they're allowing war criminals to compete. They're even allowing convicted rapists to compete. Yeah, just absolute insanity. This world is just insanity. I don't know what to say anymore. And just to tie it into the board game world, Gen Con is ongoing. If you watched my video a few weeks ago, we talked about how that one awards show, Crit Awards, was no longer going to be able to present its awards at Gen Con because of its anti-Zionist statement. And did anyone in the industry, in the board game industry, make an uproar about this? No. Like I said, the RPG community has been more vocal about being anti-Zionist than the board game community, which is still supporting its Zionist designers, creators, whatever. And you still have Our Family Plays Games, who's accepting blood money from Burnt Island Games and Kids Table Board Gaming. And I think that's going to continue, and it's never going to change unless people speak up. And I cannot be the only one speaking up, because then there's going to be no change. But I feel like that's the case. I just feel like no one is, taking the time to email or message Board Game Geek and say, hey, what the fuck? Like, why are you guys so pro-Zionist? Because I got banned from Board Game Geek for calling out Zionists in the industry. Like, that's why I was banned. But this industry is pro-Zionist, and I just feel like I'm just here by myself, like talking to myself week after week. So it's just disappointing. But yeah. So for next week, read the rest of what chapter is this? Is this chapter 1 or chapter 2? No, chapter 2. So read the rest of chapter 2. So chapter 2 ends on page 95. So read page 75 to 95 for next week. So the second half of chapter 2. And yes, we are going through this very slowly because, again, it is a very dense reading, but unfortunately, the genocide continues, so it's still very relevant as we're reading it. It's been 10 months of genocide, and with no end in sight. It's just really, really yeah, it's just unbelievable. Like, it's very surreal. It's like, surreal kind of has like a positive connotation to it. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but it's just really hard to believe it's been 10 months. Like, I'll be back at Spiel Essen, and I feel like that this won't even be over. And I was at Spiel Essen when it began. I was at Spiel Essen when October 7th happened, and soon it'll be October again, and I'll be back there, and the genocide will still be happening, and I'll be in Germany. And yeah, and Germany is a pro-Zionist country because they're trying to overcompensate for what happened during World War II. So yeah, so that's that, I guess. So, you know, share your thoughts with me on the first half of chapter 2 in the comments below. And I enjoy reading all of your guys' comments, and some people said that their comments are disappearing. The only thing I can advise you is when you write words which are being censored, try to write those words in such a way that they may not be as easily detected. So like, for example, when I write Palestine, I use exclamation points for the letter I. I'll use the @ symbol for the letter A. You know, do the same for genocide, the term genocide. Do the same for any terms you think that, you know, these platforms are picking up on, because they are censoring discussions of Zionism. They are censoring discussions which they deem to be anti-Israel. Like, we've seen that time and time again on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, that is happening. That is actually happening, where, you know, people like us are being censored. Our comments are being deleted. I've seen that happen as well. I've posted comments which have been deleted as well by YouTube, or they just disappear because, like, you know, their systems just pick up on these words and decide that, nope, you know, they want to silence us, they want to censor us. So, you know, try to be smart about which, you know, how you're writing out those words. And, you know, if you don't want to even type out Zionist with exclamation points, just say capital Z, and people like me will know what you mean. You know, for genocide, use the word Jenny, like the name Jenny. Like, you know, people have gotten really creative in trying to get around this censorship on various platforms from what I've seen. So we need to do the same in order to keep the discussion going and not let this discussion die, because this discussion should not die while the genocide is still ongoing, and even after the genocide is you know, stops, because if it ever stops, because as we can see from this book, it's been so long. It has been over 75 years. It's been so long that these people have been suffering, that these people have been occupied, that these people have been, you know, getting exterminated. It's just, the discussion should not die until they are free, until they get their homes back. So the discussion should not die. So yeah, so keep it going and try to get creative with your comments so that they remain. But for those of you that have emailed me, I do read your comments even by email, and I really appreciate it. Sorry if I haven't had a chance to respond yet. There's a couple of you, you know who you are, so thank you so much for emailing. If you were not able to post below, because I really appreciate it. It shows me that there are people who care, and there are people who are participating in this book club and trying to remain informed and educated about what is going on. And you know, I really appreciate it, so thank you. So yeah, so for next week, read the second half of chapter 2, and yeah, I'll see you guys then for book club. All right, bye. So I almost forgot the question of the week, and I said bye in my last segment. So let's do the question of the week. So let me think of a good question, because I don't want to ask a question about what's your favorite, you know, what's your favorite farming or tile laying game, because like there's a billion of them. Like, you can answer that if you want to. That of course would be inspired by Harvest. But I have another question to ask. So recently I went to the dentist. Yeah, I know you don't care about that, but it got me thinking that I cannot think of a single dentist themed game. Like, there are games themed about, you know, doctors and, you know, maybe certain areas of medicine, but I cannot think of a single game that has a theme of someone going to the dentist, which made me wonder, what other things can you think of that do not have board games with that theme or that concept or that idea or whatever? I know that's a really broad question, and you know, maybe there is a dentist themed game and I just don't know about it because I've never looked for it. So if you know, not that I even want one, like I know who likes going to the dentist, but if there is one, let me know, because I would just be curious to know like what kind of a game could even exist about going to the dentist. But yeah, tell me what doesn't exist. Like, as far as you know, what themes, what concepts, what ideas exist in this world that do not yet have games made about them? Like, you know, because we see constantly creators, you know, content creators saying, oh, if you want, there's a theme about everything. There is like literally a board game about everything that exists. Like, you give me something and I will tell you a board game about it. Like Rain, Petrichor, like, I don't know, just like, you know, ladybugs. I'm sure there's games about ladybugs. I'm sure there's games about, yeah. So just, you know, name something and people say that there's a game about it. So I want you to name something in which there is not a game about it. So yeah, so tell me in the comments below. And if you want to gatekeep your answer because you actually want to create a game about it, that's fine. Maybe you can tell me in secret, because I promise you I will not go ahead and create a game about the thing you tell me about, because I'm currently working on 2 games and I've been working on my 2 games for years now, and I really need to like up the ante, if that's the correct phrasing or idiom, up the ante. But I really need to up my game and start like really like working hard on my games and show them to publishers, because like I'm just really, really slow. So yeah, so I promise you, if you tell me, even secretly, like an email or whatever, I'm not going to steal your idea, because my ideas are really important to me and I really need to get my elephant game done and my Halloween themed game done, because those games really matter to me. So anyway, so leave your answers in the comments below, and until next week, bye.